What's going on, my international amigos, the Spurs Nation? The Spurs take down the Rockets 126-98 to close out this preseason. It was a great game. I'm here joined with Ethan Quintero from SSPN. What's going on, Ethan?
Nothing much. Just happy to be here, man.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Those of you guys that are watching right now, if you've never, seen an After the Buzzer post game show before, we do a few things on the show. We give out a game ball first off, and then we talk a couple big stats. And then we're going to, talk about a glow spot. That's an area that we shined in, that we played, that something that we each thought, the Spurs did well. And then we're going to close it out with a growth spot because there's always an area of improvement, even in wins, and there's always like a glow spot in losses as well. So, we're going to wrap up the whole post game for you guys. We're going to talk about this game. We're going to talk a little bit about the preseason in general. So let's go ahead and get started and let's give out a game ball. Coach Quintero, you're stepping into that locker room after tonight's game and you got to dish out a game ball, man. I'm going to throw it to you first. Who are you going to give it to?
I'm going to cut that ball in half, Rob, and I'm going to give it
Nice.
to our two-headed monster and DJ and Derek. Both guys finished with 20 points tonight. Both played phenomenal, passing the ball around, moving the ball around defensively. Just couldn't have asked for anything more from our pair of guards in the backcourt tonight. Derek's been kind of, shooting, not so well during the preseason. And I think some people were worried about DJ's consistency because sometimes he kind of falls out of the offense and then sometimes he steps up and, takes it upon himself to score. Tonight, from start to finish, they were both very consistent, both offensively and defensively. So I'm going to give it to both of them so they can share it.
That's good. That's a good one, man. They both dropped 20 apiece, man. And this was the most that we've seen, them resemble to any type of like positive production of out of a backcourt between them. We're always seeing one of them do all right, one of the others kind of struggling a little here and there. But tonight, man, they put it together. I'm giving mine to DJ as well, dude. And so my game ball is going. He went 8 for 13, shot 3 for 4 from the three. And, I don't think that's a conversation, man, that many people are talking about when we're discussing how are the Spurs going to shoot more threes. Obviously, we brought in some shooters, but I don't think anyone really kind of thought that DJ was going to be one of those guys that actually steps it up. And I don't know about you, but that three ball from I don't know what you think about that three ball from DJ so far this preseason is looking really, really nice.
It's looking a lot better. It's the confidence for me. It's like there's no hesitation. It's a lot more fluid. There's not a hitch in his shot anymore. The form looks great, and they are falling tonight 3 for 4. That's nothing to shy at. That's pretty good.
He picked his spots, man, and he knocked him down. I'll tell you what, like for most of this game, probably for most of the first half, Mick Buckets had my game ball for most of that first half.
I was thinking about that too.
Yeah. He was playing great, and obviously Derek kind of came through as well down the stretch. But DeJounte Murray's taking home the game ball tonight versus the Rockets to close out this preseason. I know I've heard you guys talk about it on your channel as well, that he's just, the Spurs in general are just way more competitive when he's on the floor. And there was that game where he missed, and it kind of shows. It makes the rest of the team look a little bit, with a little bit less of that fire that DJ kind of brings to the table.
Yeah, because he's so important on both sides. He's our primary facilitator on offense, but he's also our defensive anchor. Some people think it's Jakob, but I'm going to give the nod to DJ because he's also a little more vocal and he's always willing to take upon himself to, take down and lock down the best offensive player on the other team.
All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and talk about some big stats when we get right back. I'll tell you what, Ethan, I really liked having a 16-point lead in the second quarter.
I did too. That's something we have not seen very often, especially all of last season.
And let me tell you what, man, we're going to play Houston quite a few times this year in our division. And tonight there was a huge gap between so I'm going to change this over, between the two. And you can just tell that, we look a little bit more fluid. We look a little bit more put together than they do. And, that was one of my big stats. We kind of held that lead. It kind of got cut down to 8 or 10 somewhere late there in the fourth quarter. But then we kind of bounced that thing right back up. And then, and then it's a preseason game. So we didn't close it out with our starting unit. So just the fact that we're able to build that lead and kind of hold on to it on a night where if we were hitting shots, I guess you can say, but it kind of felt like there were a lot of stretches where we struggled to score the ball. And, we kind of held it together with turning some defense into offense and keeping that lead and for the whole game, man. My last stat right here that I want to talk about is that we didn't have less than a 30-point quarter. We had a 30-point quarter in the first. We had a 30-point quarter in the fourth, 31 in the third, 35 in the second.
Wow.
Yeah. So no, we scored the ball. I mean, I kind of felt like the starters were doing most of that work, but I don't know, what's your big stat for tonight?
I got two as well. First and foremost has to be our 3-point shooting, both just the sheer volume of shots that we were able to put up and efficiency, 38.5% tonight as a whole from the team. I know that's not great. Some people are like, oh, that's not 40%. That's a lot better than we were last year. So I think that's a pretty good stat right there. And then secondly, 30 assists tonight from the team. It's really good to see. We're still moving the ball offensively. It's not sticking as much as it was last year, I think, with the fluidity of our offense finally, starting to take shape. So those are the two biggest stats that I saw from tonight.
Yeah, man, the fluidity is showing itself. I know a lot of people are excited about that. Most of Spurs fandom out here loves the idea of the Spurs kind of bringing back that 2014, ball movement and sharing of the basketball. And Bill Land was talking about it a few times tonight. There's no ball stoppers, and it's apparent, man, that these guys are sharing the ball. So that's a huge stat, man. 30 assists. That means that we're putting the ball in the hole too, man. So that's good. All right, guys. So we're going to take a little break here. When we get back, we're going to talk about a glow spot. It's an area that we thought that we shined in, that we did well in. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel, like this video, chant Go Spurs Go when you smash that like button down below. We'll be right back. Cheap Spurs tickets are at SpursTubeTv.com. How to find the cheapest tickets to NBA games this season? Well, that's easy. Head over to SpursTubeTv.com, check out the home menu, click on the tickets tab, and head over to our page that will send you to ScoreBig.com. They always are in the running for the cheapest tickets online, even against some of the bigger name companies like StubHub and SeatGeek. When you click on our links, it supports this channel. If you're planning on going to an NBA game, sporting event, or concert in the near future, stay safe and remember to check if SpursTubeTv can save you money before you purchase. The link is in the description below. If you want to support the content creators directly, head over to the shop at SpursTubeTv.com/shop to check out all the merch from the SpursTubeTV brand and all of their contributors. More merch coming soon. Shop link is in the description below. This channel only exists because of Patreon. Without our Patreon support, we could not have the funds to keep this ship afloat. So we are excited about this season and servicing our Patreon members. If you are in the fortunate position to pledge $5, $10, or even $15 a month, you become a part of the backbone of this channel and get some sweet perks along the way. Join the Patreon. Link is in the description below. All right, man. So we beat the crap out of Houston. That's always good. That's always a glow spot in my day, in my week, or my weekend, whatever. All is right with the world and Spurs basketball when we can beat the crap out of Houston. But I'll talk about this. I'll talk about my glow spot here in a second. What was a bright point for you in tonight's final preseason game moving forward?
Overall, I'm going to have to kind of repeat myself here, but it's got to be the offensive cohesion from everybody. It seems like it's coming together. In the first few games in the preseason, there was a lot of rust, particularly with shooting and guys like Dougie McDermott and everybody that's new kind of knowing where they are in the offense. All that seemed to kind of level off in this game. Everybody knew when to cut. Everyone knew when to fade out to the three-point line. And just everyone being able to be in those spots, the ball finding the open man, that really showed tonight. And I'm hoping that can keep going and get even better as the season gets started.
This preseason's been a little bit of like a chapter book, right? I would say, like, you know, the first chapter, the first game, it was like, oh, it's great. It's starting off good. I really like this. You know, Primo looks great. 17 points in 18 minutes. What? It was just got me hooked. I'm like hooked in for the rest of this book, right? And then chapter 2 comes around. We go to Detroit, and it was kind of just like, it doesn't really matter. We're going to play the vets. We're going to play Al-Farouq Aminu. We're going to play Thaddeus Young. You know, I think we're all kind of expecting them not to kind of be on the squad. They haven't really gotten that much run, maybe since a little bit here and there, but that game was kind of more about them, giving them their run and that veterans need. And they talked about that a little bit after the game. And then we had the Luka experiment against Miami, right? Where we start him against Miami and we play him with that starting group. And then after that was the Orlando game, which we all know, you know, was probably one of those final nails in the coffin on that Luka experiment, but which was just, you know, an interesting game to watch. A little bit more cohesiveness in that game, I want to say, here and there in spurts. But tonight, you're absolutely right. Tonight, man, we were on a short rotation. I don't know if you would agree. Like, we only had like 9 guys, I think, play.
For the majority of the game,
for a majority of the game until like the end of the fourth quarter, and that rotation was on point, man. And you know, that's one of my big glow spots of tonight too, man. Is that rotation? Like, one, Derek and DeJounte, you know, they're going to be staggering. I think they're going to start the game together, and then Derek is the first one being pulled out of the game, right? So like Derek gets pulled out of the game, and then DeJounte plays almost the whole first quarter, right? So they sub out Derek White early, and then they put him in those final 2 minutes. They put Derek White back in, and so it's like you have one of those two guys in the entire first quarter, which I think is crucial to being like to putting a defensive closing stamp on that first quarter, which you need to, you know, you want to have a good end to your quarters, you know, like, you know, quarters are won or lost sometimes in the last few minutes of the game. So like you put in your subs in there just to give guys rest, you might lose a lead, right? Or whatever. And so I'm not picking on him or anything, but Bryn Forbes didn't play to the second quarter, right? Which is just kind of like, I think that should make all of Spurs Nation happy out there. Is like, okay, he wasn't the first guy off the bench, one. Well, he's not starting. He's not the first guy off the bench. And then he didn't play until the second quarter where he was on the floor, I think, with Derek White. Right. So, you know, there was a good balance there in that rotation. I wrote it down here, actually. Let me see. Lonnie Walker came in for Derek White. Now that's you know, we're going to talk about Lonnie in a little while. Devin Vassell came in for Doug McDermott, which I love. I love that. Too. I love that rotation between those two guys. KBD, right? Keita came in for KJ. So it seems like until probably Jock Landale or Zach Collins can come in and challenge KBD for some minutes, which Jock, you know, sooner than later, Zach a little bit later than sooner, but KBD played great tonight. There's a little bit of hiccups here and there when he's on the floor, but you can live with those because he brings you so much more, right? And then like Derek White came back in at the end of the first quarter. That's for the first quarter, right? Like the first subs. I'm always like watching who's your first, second guy off the bench. In a preseason game, it's very telling because you're doing that more for yourself to get your rotations going versus like, you know, your DeJounte, just for example, is getting burned and you got to sub him out to get someone in there to kind of cover him. You know what I mean? And so it was a little bit revealing on like what your kind of hierarchy is on your rotation list. And that's kind of where it's at right now until some of these guys get healthy. Like Trey Jones, right? Trey Jones, we want to see if he can get in the mix a little bit more too. So the rotations were good. The biggest glow spot for me though it was Derek White. I didn't give him the game ball, but Derek White won at the end of the first quarter. I was like, he looks great. He looks like 100% physically healthy out there. And to me, I'm like, ooh, that's a good sign. That's a good sign.
It really is, especially defensively, in my opinion.
Oh man, dude, huge. I brought that up to my wife. I was watching the game with my wife, and I was like, when he's on the floor right now, and I know it's just preseason, and that's why it's a good sign, is that he looks like he's on another level compared to everyone else in that starting unit. Even, you know what I mean? Defensively, he's anticipating on another level. He's just all over the floor.
And something about Derek that I liked from this game a little bit more than even DeJounte, because DeJounte doesn't do it too much. Derek does it a lot. They both can be the primary ball handler and, you know, make plays coming off the pick and roll. But Derek has a great, like, as soon as he passes the ball, he's cutting right down the lane. Yeah. And he gets easy buckets like that. DJ doesn't normally cut as much, but Derek, I mean, he moves without the ball like just as well as Doug McDermott, in my opinion.
Did you see that? Did you see? I love that dime to Derek White from DJ. There, I
Mm-hmm.
think it was in the third quarter, it was in the fourth, where
Mm-hmm.
White was sitting in the corner and we pulled the ball
Yes.
out, and DJ was just on top of the floor, and he just zipped
Yeah.
it over there to the corner, and he nailed it. I mean, man, dude, like the balance scoring between those two guys is perfect. Like they both put up what 13 and 14 shots tonight.
Yep.
DJ put up 13. Uh, Derek White put up
14.
14. Yeah, geez,
Yeah.
man. That's what you got to love right there. 7 threes from Derek White, but more, his output was great, and take the output, guys, with a grain of salt. It's preseason and it's against the Rockets. And
Yeah.
big low spot, like I said earlier, the Rockets don't look that good, which is huge,
Mm-hmm.
man, because you want to chalk those up to wins down the schedule, right? You want to chalk, all those Houston games up to wins. And then New Orleans is dealing with a Zion injury, right?
Yeah.
And so that's our division, right? So really you got Memphis out there, you got um Dallas, right? Memphis and Dallas out there are the ones that, if we want to consider ourselves one of the best in our division, those are the two teams we got to be looking to kind of match or be better than. Yeah. You got anything else on the glow spot before we move on?
No, I think we're good. I think we handled it pretty well.
All right, let's go, guys. We're going to go ahead and talk about a growth spot. That's an area that we think the Spurs can still improve on. It's early in the season. It's just the preseason. So, we'll get into that too right now when we get back. All right, so Ethan, some areas that we can still, tweak and shine and, sharpen up a little bit moving forward out of this game.
There were two that came to mind immediately, and one of them kind of fixed itself as the game went on, but it was a big problem like in the first quarter, and that was defensive rotations. They were a little slow in my opinion because Houston came out with incredible ball movement, and it kind of diminished as the game went on. But when they were moving the ball and they were passing the rock around, we were really struggling to stay up with those young guys over there on their offensive side of the ball. So if we can kind of tighten that up a little bit, I think that will come with time, just kind of understanding everybody on the court, because we got Doug McDermott and Bryn Forbes and all these guys. Once a few games go by, that will tighten up. And like I said, as the game continued, it tightened up even in just one little game. And secondly, it wasn't a huge discrepancy. They had 59 rebounds, we had 53, but we let Christian Wood get 19 boards and Alperen Sengun get 12. Neither of them are known as big rebounding guys. They're big dudes, but I didn't think, oh, these guys Andre Drummond level of, getting boards, and we somehow let them just dominate both Jakob and Drew on the boards tonight. So that's something to keep an eye on as the season progresses.
They were aggressive on the boards, man, those
Mm-hmm.
guys. And, I thought our bigs did an all right job of making Shangun's life a little bit difficult. It seemed like
Mm-hmm.
Shangun was either on the floor or on the other end of like
Yeah,
a
they were
physical
bullying him.
play. Yeah, exactly, man. It's like Drew, and I was there chatting in my living room. I was like, yeah, Drew, let him know. Let the rookie know that he's not just gonna walk up in here and show you up, Drew. Make sure that he knows. And Drew did pretty well, I think, in that regard. So shout out to Drew. Jakob did okay. Jakob gives you a little bit of good, but
Mm-hmm.
but even less like bad. He's doing all right. But you're absolutely right, bro. Like we gave up 21 points in the first, 18 in the second. The third quarter, we let them go for 30, right? That was that. You can tell that even for us, I think in that third quarter, which might be a growth spot for me moving forward too, is I'm trying to analyze, okay, which, because in every team has their strengths and their weaknesses in like quarters, like what's their
Mm-hmm.
best quarter, what's their worst quarter. And we kind of want to see that too. We want to kind of start seeing that trend of where the Spurs are being most productive and where they're being least productive throughout the season. And defensively, they gave up 30 to Houston in the third quarter. So coming out of that halftime, I mean, I know they had a big lead, right? We went off for 35 in the second, right? So we're feeling
Mm-hmm.
good about ourselves, going into halftime. We came out, we kind of let them, get stuff going. But a growth spot for me, man, moving forward was we're still missing plenty of shots. And I think early on in the game, DJ missed a few, Derek White missed a few, like just name everyone who's not Doug McDermott, was missing a few early.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? And that's important because, yeah, against a team like Houston, we can get hot in the second. We can take a little time. They're not going to make us pay for it. But against some of the better teams in the league, when we're starting off missing a lot of shots and create those, that's when we get in those positions where we gotta climb back from like the hole that we dug ourselves in early, and we gotta climb back the rest of the game and to get back in it, right? So um
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's like, okay, I can understand Doug McDermott being like, probably one of our top scorers on a night to night basis. And it's really going to have to like shuffle between DJ, Derek. I know they both were on tonight. Let's see how many nights we can get that from both of these guys where they're both on. But from those two guys and Keldon in that starting unit, I think if Doug McDermott is on, that lets, one of those other guys, it can be any of you guys, any of you three guys, just kind of step it up early in the scoring category. But if it's not going to be Doug McDermott, it's, to me, it's a little bit of a question mark still. So I was a little bit concerned early on in the game. I'm just like, okay, I know it's early and whatever, but it doesn't matter. I mean, you're going to come out and either punch first or get punched first, right? And it sucks when you're getting punched first and you can't put the ball in the hole. You know what I mean? So missing a lot of shots early was one of my growth spots. We can work on that in that first quarter. But Lonnie Walker, is he on a minute restriction, you think, coming off this little tweak that he was on the injured list for a little bit, right?
Yeah, he had a hamstring contusion, I think, is what it was listed as. I'm not sure if he's on a minutes restriction. I didn't think he was playing poorly either. I thought he was playing pretty well. I don't know why
Mhm.
he only played 12 minutes, but there's probably a minutes restriction because I didn't think he did anything to warrant being pulled or anything like that.
He didn't play in the open scrimmage, right?
No.
And I thought that was a good move because I don't know if you remember, but he got hurt
Mhm.
his rookie season in the open scrimmage. So I was like, yes, let's please not repeat that. Let's just keep Lonnie Walker totally out of this thing and
Yeah.
kind of eliminate any possibility for him to get an injury. But and then so he came off that little, I guess you can call it an injury report for us. Do you even have to have an injury report for a scrimmage game? I don't know, but we did
I have no idea.
for some reason. Um but Lonnie Walker, man, I was really confused with that too. I was like, maybe that's what it is. Maybe he really did have a little nagging thing and he's resting, coming off this thing slowly, and the Spurs don't want to dump a load on him real quick, minutes wise. But he didn't really impress me too much. He was a little too passive to me, like when he was on the floor. And my wife, she knows a little bit about the game, but even she called out that, like, it was like during the second quarter, because I don't think he played in the second half.
Mm-mm.
He finished with 12 minutes, the lowest of any of those guys that were actually playing off the bench. Um, but he was a little bit too passive. Even my wife was like, he's the only one right now that's still on the floor that doesn't look aggressive. Because like by that point in the second quarter, you had seen Vassell get aggressive. You had seen Derek, DeJounte, Doug McDermott obviously was shooting lights out and stuff, and everyone kind of looked aggressive, but Lonnie was a little bit too passive. And I feel like maybe that's why Pop gave all his minutes. It's either the restriction or he was too passive and not
Mhm.
aggressive enough where Pop's like, you don't want to find Bryn, go. Bryn and Keita Bates, yeah, pretty much ate up all his minutes in the second half, unless it's a minute restriction. It's just speculation on my point, but that's kind of my take on Lonnie right there in the second half. But the whole bench output needs to get better.
Yeah, I agree. And with Lonnie, if it's not a minutes restriction, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm kind of struggling to find out where he fits really as far as like the offensive scheme of things.
Mhm.
Because like we talked about Derek, his ability to kind of move off ball and cut and make some plays in the mid range and stuff. Lonnie really needs the ball in his hand, at least as far as what we've seen, the sample size that we have, needs the ball in his hands to be effective. And we saw that last year when he was ineffective because Rudy and Patty had the ball in their hands primarily off the bench. So maybe it's a minute restriction, but maybe they just think Bryn fits a little bit better in there because he does something a little bit differently. He's more of an efficient 3-point shooter as to where Lonnie, you really got to give him the ball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he needs a little bit of volume, right? And see, the counter argument to like there's anything else but a minute restriction going on is that he was the first guy off the bench for Derek White. You know what I mean? So that if you have a plan going into the game, and your first sub is to first start staggering your 2 point guards, right? That's your first sub of the game, and that's probably something that's going to be something that we're probably going to see most of the season, is someone subbing in for Derek White early. And that's either going to be Lonnie, or that's going to be Devin Vassell, or that's going to be maybe even Trey Jones at some point down the line who gets that call. But at this point, it's Lonnie. So I wouldn't make too much out of it.
Mhm.
Um, those of y'all that are thinking, maybe he's getting outplayed. It's too early to get outplayed. You haven't played any games yet, any real games yet. So no one's getting outplayed, but in practice, that's where it's going down. So let me see. Any last gross spot before we kind of wrap this thing up?
No, I think I will. One little thing.
Mhm.
Keldon needs to shoot a little bit better.
I was just about to say, I know the
Yeah.
only other thing I kind of have right now is Keldon. I don't want to. I wanted to revisit his stat line real quick. I was like, so he was 4 for 12, 1 for 2 from three. He only put up 2 threes, 3 for
Mhm.
9 from the free throw line. That's something that needs to get better if he's not going to be able to. I mean, like, look, early on in the preseason, we're seeing Keldon kind of like expose his bag a little bit, right? It's like, oh, I can
Mhm.
kind of hold on to the ball for a second and back you down and get to a spot or get to my mid range off of one dribble, stuff like that. But in this game, he was kind of not involved, and there's going to be those games where just some guys step up and where your role shifts. You don't have to be that dominant scorer, be aggressive on scoring, but you have to do other things around the game. But he finished with 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 12 points. So not a terrible night, but he was
Mhm.
definitely like absent from most of that game.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the best way to put it. Just absent because Doug McDermott was shooting so well. Derek White, Dejounte, everybody
Yeah.
else seemed to be having a great night, and then Keldon's just trying to find a shot. It looked like.
Yeah, dude. So I mean, like, dude, I had this thought too. I don't know if what do you think about this question? Let me throw this to you real quick before we wrap it up. I have this theory that just in order for us to be at a certain level, competitive wise, in the Western Conference, I think we're really gonna have to utilize the hell out of Doug McDermott. I mean, I'm talking about like putting him in that Klay Thompson seat where it's like we're gonna run a good amount of our plays and offense, to get you open shots. I don't know. I don't
Mhm.
know if that's like something you can see the Spurs kind of
I
rolling out.
definitely can. I was thinking that during this game too, because of how well he fits into our system. And it seems like as the preseasons progress, they've been slowly like elevating how many plays they run for him. And then tonight was like the apex of that clearly because he had 16 points, 4 from 9 from three. And he's shown me he's capable of a lot more than just spotting up and shooting a three.
Yeah.
He's a great cutter as well. He's a lot more athletic than I gave him credit for. We all saw that dunk he had early on.
Oh yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, so I definitely think, especially with like how our roster is, formatted right now, he will have a bigger role than most Spurs fans envisioned him having when he signed.
Yeah, you know what? If there was any question about, are we going to keep this small ball lineup? Because it's kind of like a small ball lineup that we have
Mhm.
here when we're running KJ and Doug McDermott at your 3 and 4, or are we going to switch to some big lineups down the road? And I think if Doug is shooting like this and we let Keldon kind of catch his wave as the season goes on, and
Mhm.
let either Derek White or DJ carry the load to support, kind of getting Doug McDermott open, and when the defense kind of overcommits to Doug McDermott, someone's got to step up in that regard. And I think those guys have the ability to do that, the rest of that starting lineup. So man, great win tonight, Ethan, man. It was awesome having you on the show. Thank you for coming on, man. Why don't you let everybody know where they can find you, bro?
You can find me on Twitter at Ethan_Quintero. You can find us on YouTube. Me and my buddy Jude do our SSPN YouTube channel. We're also on Twitter for him, Jude McLaren, no spaces, nothing like that. Otherwise, you can find me on the street in Texas somewhere.
Yeah, guys. The link is in the description below to Ethan's page on SpursTubeTv.com. You can find the link to his Twitter and all that stuff, and SSPN channel as well. So go ahead and check out the link in the description below. Not just for that, but for our shop, to find Spurs tickets, to join the Patreon, all that stuff. You can find all the links in the description below to link you up to this channel so you can support it in whichever way that you can. And if that's just chanting "Go Spurs Go," smashing this like button down below, and sending that good juju out to the rest of Spurs Nation, that's awesome. That goes above and beyond over here. So thank you guys for tuning out. I'm Rob Trejo Jr. You can follow me on Twitter at RTJ_SpursTubeTV, and of course, subscribe to the channel. And if you like this type of content, we're very excited. It's going to be a great season, man. It's going to be an exciting season. If we can compete like this on a night-to-night basis, I think we're going to be turning some heads throughout the season, and we're going to be in the mix of things come play-in playoff time. So I like what I saw out of tonight's game. It leaves me with a good feeling moving forward, because I think this was the most like to what we're going to see for the rest of this season. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Ethan, man. Well, thanks for coming on, man. Go Spurs, go.
Go Spurs, go, man. Thanks for having me.
Cheap Spurs tickets are at SpursTubeTv.com. How to find the cheapest tickets to NBA games this season? Well, that's easy. Head over to SpursTubeTv.com, check out the home menu, click on the tickets tab, and head over to our page that will send you to ScoreBig.com. They always are in the running for the cheapest tickets online, even against some of the bigger name companies like StubHub and SeatGeek. When you click on our links, it supports this channel. If you're planning on going to an NBA game, sporting event, or concert in the near future, stay safe and remember to check if SpursTubeTV can save you money before you purchase. The link is in the description below. If you want to support the content creators directly, head over to the shop at SpursTubeTV.com/shop to check out all the merch from the SpursTubeTV brand and all of their contributors. More merch coming soon. Shop link is in the description below. This channel only exists because of Patreon. Without our Patreon support, we could not have the funds to keep this ship afloat. So we are excited about this season and servicing our Patreon members. If you are in the fortunate position to pledge $5, $10, or even $15 a month, you become a part of the backbone of this channel and get some sweet perks along the way. Join the Patreon. Link is in the description below.